Morning, everyone. Neil, Sam, good to see you guys, man. Groovy having you guys with us this morning. Alrighty, if you're visiting with us today, I hope you feel super duper welcome. You've kind of arrived not halfway through something, sort of at the beginning of a new preaching series. We started, I never know if it's 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, because this is the third week. But we started, there were 2 weeks before this, so we're in the third week. Maybe I can put it that way. And we're preaching a series about looking at what are the things that keep us from the love of God. We've called it the 7 giants, but it's not really about giants. You know, there's not some physical giants walking around just for the, you know, I know the spiritual warfare people in the room are like, you know, oh, really? Is there something else? No, there isn't really. These are things, strategies that the enemy uses, the world uses, and we ourselves are susceptible to, because our flesh is just as treacherous as anything else trying to take us out. That come in and look to separate us from the love of God. And so what we're wanting to do is shine a light on these things and go, thank God that's not me. I hope the person next to me is listening, you know, because we love one another and we really want to help them. And also that we're able to go to God ourselves and allow Him to work these things out of us, right? Because there's nothing worse than when we try and take on the enemy in our own strength. In fact, in the book of Jude, it says that the archangel Michael is fighting with Satan over Moses' body. And in that moment, the archangel doesn't even go against Satan. He says, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. So even the angels themselves, they don't walk in their own authority. It's the Lord rebuke you. We walk in the authority that Jesus gave us, right? And anyway, I don't want to go down to get sidetracked this morning. So this morning, last week we looked, 2 weeks ago, Lance spoke about our intro. Well, he did an intro. And then last week I looked at the giant of look good. And that was challenging. This week we are looking at the giant of feel good. Now, if I had to ask you up front, like, what is wrong with feeling good? Let me read you a couple of scriptures. Because like Scripture seems to not have too much of a problem with this idea of feeling good. Let me read quickly. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Right? Deuteronomy 23:18. And the Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you shall only go up and not go down. Like, this sounds amazing, right? I'm like, dude, like, sign me up. Proverbs 10:22. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and He adds no sorrow with it. So I think we could be deceived, or we could fall into the trap of thinking, well, the Bible seems to have this outcome that we should feel good. Like, all of those scriptures there seem to encourage me in wanting to feel good. Like, God has got this promise for us. But friends, this is the thing. Just like I've said over the course of the whole series, and well, all series last week, it's going on for another 7 weeks after this. And I'm kind of giving the answer away before I ask the question. But God has wired, like I said last week, God has wired it in us to look good. But to look good in His sight. And what the enemy does, and God doesn't want us to walk around the whole time feeling bad and condemned and guilty. He wants us to feel good. But we receive what we receive from Him. And feeling good isn't always what the world says. It's possible to be unhappy and joyful at the same time, because joy is here, happiness is here. Right? And so it's who we're going to and where we are receiving what we're receiving from. And just like when Jesus was on the cross, when Jesus was being tempted by the enemy in the desert, the third temptation is fascinating for me, because the devil comes to Jesus and takes him up to a high place and shows him all the kingdoms of the earth and says, I'll give all of these to you if you bow down and worship me. Now, we would look and go, obviously Jesus isn't going to bow down, like the devil's so obvious. Unless you understand what Scripture's like the backstory to. The backstory is this, that Jesus didn't dispute with the enemy that He was the ruler over all of those kingdoms. Because when man fell, right, the world plunged into sin and darkness and brokenness and fallenness. And Jesus, when He dies on the cross, is going to redeem mankind and win back all of the kingdoms of the earth. And so what the enemy is saying is, bro, like, do you really, like, you and me both, it looks tough. This cross thing, this crucifixion thing looks hectic. Tell you what, I'll offer you like an alternative. I'll offer you the easy way out. I'll give it to you for free. All you have to do is bow down and worship me. And friends, that's what these giants kind of do for us, is they come to us and they challenge us about something. And God has got a pattern. He doesn't want to ever keep anything from us. He wants to walk us like a father and to teach us and for us to find these things. He wired these desires on the inside of us. But the enemy comes and he wants to use that wiring and pervert it to trap us, to cause us to fall, and to cause us to never end up walking in what God has for us, even for those who are saved. And so there's this deception thing about it, right? And it's so important to understand that the reason those things take purchase inside of us is because we do have a desire. And if you look through the book, all of those things, as you look at them, are things that God has given us. They are like internal wirings, but the enemy comes and offers us a cheap alternative. So let's start with this. If you've got your books with you, I'm going to go through the words. This week, I've only put one word in the wrong place. I've tried really hard. I was trying to like hammer it in where it was, but it would just seem weird. I would have been like talking about this and gone put a word there, and my ADD can't handle that. Anyway, so let's have a look. My first big thing is this. What does the giant of feel-good look like? And what does he do in our lives? Well, the first thing he wants to do is to trap us. And the way he does this is he doesn't catch us when we are like in an even space in our lives. He catches us when we're at a high, or he catches us when we're at a low. And it's fascinating how many of us aren't able to see that, especially the highs. You know, some of the times that I have sinned and done the stupidest stuff that I would never have considered doing wasn't always when I was in a dark, deep place. It was when everyone was shouting my name and when everyone was celebrating me, and I felt like in this big moment of the high that I deserved this. And in that moment, I just go on the the accolades of everyone. You're so amazing. You're so this, and so I deserve this, and I can have a bit of this, and I can get into this relationship, or I can indulge this appetite. And so what he does is he waits. He's super sneaky. Waits for those moments, the up moments, and then in that moment, he's like, "Oh, you're amazing. What about a little bit of this? Just make it a bit more amazing." And boop, I can find myself trapped. And so our first word for our booklets, for the nerds amongst us, is feel good operates on the hedonic principle, hedonism, pleasuring myself, wanting to not be in a bad place, wanting to, I want my life to be not just satisfying, I want it to be exciting and pleasing. It operates on the hedonic principle, driving compulsion and addictive behaviors. And so not only when I'm on a high, but also when I'm on a low. And so in those moments, the feel-good becomes my coping mechanism. I'm not talking about everyone else, but human beings in general, myself as well, early on in my life, using other people and relationships to patch over the fact that I felt bad about myself. I didn't like my station in life. And that's how these behaviors, these patterns form in our lives. And so often we get trapped. This is the giant of the trap, because he traps us in this thing of like, well, your life sucks, you suck, the people around you suck, but at least you can have a little bit of this to make you feel better. And the danger of it is that, because sometimes the little bit of the thing that he offers us is not sin, but the danger is that that thing becomes something that we begin to lean on. It could be affirmation from people. And we become addicted to it. And now I can't remember, we're talking about this thing that separates us from the love of God. Now I can no longer receive the love of God because I'm just so desperate for the acceptance of my wife, and I'm just trying so hard. Speak to me, tell me I'm special, tell me I'm amazing, tell me I'm Superman. I'll even dress up in the outfit if you want. And so he wants to trap us in these patterns. And he deflects away from the real issue, what's really going on. And the way he plays this is so deceptive, because what he does is he comes and he points out the problem, and then what he does is he sneaks around the back And then he changes his mask, and then he's like, oh, I've got a solution. Oh, surprise, oh, I can't believe it. You have this need, and I've got the solution. Wow. Because he understands, and the enemy works like this with us. He understands that if he just came with the temptation, we'd be like, whatever. Remember with Jesus? If we don't think that the crucifixion was something that was aching Jesus, look at him in the Garden of Gethsemane. Like he's sweating drops of blood. It's like trauma for him. He's going through all this stuff. He didn't just start thinking about it then, I'm sure. Like he knew about this. And so the enemy comes in at that point of weakness and offers him this solution. And so the second word is, we may want instant gratification. Right now, just like an extra spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. You won't know what I'm talking about, but we will. And then the sixth word, this is the one word that's out of place. He gets us to seek to escape from reality or discomfort rather than face it. Escape from reality or discomfort rather than face it. So that's the first thing. He seeks to trap us. The second thing is he seeks to separate us from one another. This is the Karen giant. You know what a Karen is? What is a guy Karen? A Ken? A what? Darren. A Darren. Okay, sweet. We've got Karens and Darrens. There we go. But this is that giant because it's the giant of entitlement. Right? It's like, I have an opinion, therefore you must listen to me. That because everyone's got a voice, like, your voice is not more important than my voice. Because when I speak and people listen to me, it makes me feel good about myself. And if you don't listen to me, I feel bad. So but just think about this. If everybody's talking at the same time and every voice carries the same weight, how on earth do people pull together? And so it's so subtle in the wanting me to feel good. I'm actually separated from those. Like I'm separated from community. I'm separated from others. When the Bible becomes just another voice, how on earth do we grow? How on earth do we find like any sort of freedom? How am I able to be challenged about the weak spots in my life? Because this thing kind of glosses over the weak spot and says, no, it's not really sin, you know? It's you being you. You deserve this thing. And what ends up happening is I indulge those things. I begin to hurt the people close to me. And I begin to take it out on the people close to me. And it begins to split us up from one another. And so he seeks to trap us, separate us from one another. He seeks to separate us from God. Yes, I've seen this so much. Just in the last couple of years, this thing has been crazy to me. I feel like the church has traded the Holy Spirit for holy moments. Every time we get together as the church, brother, I've got to feel goosebumps. I have to float off the floor a little bit. Like if someone prays me, I have to fall over. Like there's such an experiential side to the church. And it's this, you deserve, because you're a child of God, you deserve to experience God. And if you aren't experiencing God, I mean, people don't say that. Sometimes they point the finger at us, but we are left with the conclusion of that, well, then does he really love me? Because it looks like when Cindy's worshiping, Jesus she's having a great time. But I just lost my job. Right? I'm in anguish in my heart. I'm concerned. I'm not sleeping, whatever the issue is. And I can start when I'm offered this, no, but God's there to make you feel good, to have a moment, to have an experience. And that's the thing that I'm chasing. I can quietly become offended with him in my heart. Or I can quietly begin to think that I'm some sort of second class, third class. I don't know, we got this imported that Indian caste system. And then I'm like the untouchables at the bottom. You know, I'm here to watch God work in everybody else's life. That's the best I'll ever do. I can look in the window and see what God is doing with others. You know, that I hate it. Like, these guys who get up, God will answer your prayers now. And I'm like, bro, who on earth do you think you are to command the God of heaven? Friends, God had promised us that he loves us. He promises us that we're his children. But he also says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So this, number three, word number three, this giant encourages us to avoid truth, especially when it challenges our comforts and our desires. We don't want truth to be truth, because it doesn't feel good. And then lastly, the fourth thing that this giant does is he pretends to be for our good. He kind of comes in alongside of us. Says stuff like, oh, but you deserve this. Like, you special. You different. You can have this. Some of you know my story. I come from an addictive past. And so Cindy and I don't drink. I got no issue with alcohol, people drinking. I mean, the Bible says don't get drunk. But I got no issue with it. We buy bottles of wine for our friends for their birthdays. But I know two things about myself. Number one, I know my history. And also number two, I know this, that Cindy and I live in quite a high-stress environment. And I cannot afford to allow a coping mechanism into my life that may take hold of me. So I'm watching my coping mechanisms. And I'm being honest about them. But this giant comes alongside and he's like, but bro, you deserve it. And friends, I've watched pastors Sunday night, just a few nightcaps of whiskey just to take the edge off. And then Monday's their day off, so a few beers during the course of the day. And then Monday nights, just a few glasses of wine to take the edge off. And then Friday night, when we might not see people on Saturday, and before you know it, you've got a man who loved God, served God, laid his life down for the church, and was meant to be an example to God's people. Has fallen apart on the inside. You know why? Because the giant of feel-good came in and said, but you deserve it. Friends, you want to know what that giant sounds like? What is he saying to you? You deserve this. I deserve sex in my marriage. I deserve intimacy. I deserve honesty in my friendships. That thing, that's that giant ringing the bell. And we've got to be so careful. Because that's a trap. This guy's the trap guy, right? He's got a lasso and a cowboy hat. So I'm trying to create like a mental image of this giant. Like, imagine like a 9-foot cowboy out there to catch us. You deserve this. It's not really cheating in your marriage. You deserve to be encouraged a little bit. So a little bit of flirting's fine. Friends, this giant is, and he knows our desires. This guy knows us inside out and backwards, knows what we enjoy, knows what feeds us. So he's like feeding those desires inside of us. Right, word number 4. It's encouraging, right? Yeah, we got another, like 6 weeks? How many more weeks of this? Yeah, we'll be bloodthirsty, blood-stained people at the end of this. Word number 4, instead of pursuing growth, we pursue what is immediately satisfying. And then word number 5, I couldn't really fit it in, so I just snuck it in here. Prioritizes immediate pleasure over long-term growth or obedience. There's an immediacy about it. Right, so he seeks to trap us, separate us from one another, separate us from God, and pretends to be for our good. Okay, so have we shone a spotlight, friends? We can see him now. And fortunately, nowhere near us, right? None of us struggle at all. Well, the reason we're hearing today is so we can go help other people, right? None of us, we're all good. So what happens when you give in to this giant? What happens when you give in to feel good? Let me read to you from Romans chapter 5 quick. Yes, guys, I've got reading glasses at home, and it's getting to the point where I'm going to have to wear them at church, but I'm so embarrassed to. And I'm wondering if this is the Look Good Giant, so maybe this is the right series. Like my font used to be font size 10. I'm up to 14 now in my notes. Anyway, Romans chapter 5 from verse 3 to 5. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So there's a process here. I think we've spoken about this before. Suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And in that place, friends, we access the steady stream of the love of God into our hearts. And so the beginning of the pathway into accessing God's love is what? Suffering. Oh dear. Friends, growth and maturity, I have yet to see growth and maturity ever happen in an easy season. You know the good seasons when everything's cooking and everything's going well? Those are wonderful seasons to refuel. But they are not the seasons where we are recreated, challenged, and made. And we can also be lazy in the good season, because in the good season, that's the time to sharpen your disciplines. Make sure that you onboarding the good food, right? Spending time with Jesus, spending time in the love of God. I can think about your journey a couple of years ago, Sam, because of the years before of putting in, like in those seasons of the lean years. If you think about the story of Joseph, like there are biblical patterns from the Old Testament, and often the good season precedes the tough season. And so the Egyptian people, Moses says to Pharaoh, put away for 7 years, and so that when the 7 lean years come, that you've got something. We can be so oblivious. This good season is all about me. It's all for me. It's wonderful. We just waste our resources. Then we hit the wall. Our disciplines aren't in place. Our relationships aren't in place. Our time with Jesus isn't in place. Our time with our kids, our wives. Like, we've become these soft people in the easy season. And then when the hard season hits, and I feel like this feel-good giant comes to us, and when we hit the tough season, his solution is never time to grow. His solution is always find the easy season. Go backwards. What happened? Go find it again. And so we get so anxious. So we're running around trying to return to, I'm going to go back to what worked. I'm going to try and... But friends, the way to go forward is never to go backwards. Because when we go forward, the past is the past and it's gone, but he lies to us. Go back to the way it was. Our marriage used to be so good. What happened? Like, you're growing, you're moving forward. Anything that grows is tough. Any sort of growth takes us into an uncomfortable space. That's normal. And the solution is never to go backwards and just pack up the growth. And so, sometimes in the tough season, that's what God's love looks like. Because he's committed to our growth and not to our comfort. I think I've gone ahead of my notes. Anyway. This giant contends that we are fine the way we are. You are a special little child. You are a shiny little individual. The world is so lucky that you exist, you special person. Right? And you've got too much on your plate now as it is. Like, you're doing so much. And it's so easy to agree in that moment. And so word 7 in our books, repeatedly, it can lead even mature believers to make decisions that bring short-term pleasure but long-term devastation. Word 8, it increases avoidance of discomfort, accountability, or spiritual correction. This giant's like this. If people have an issue with you, if people confront you, like, move on. But don't ever ask the question why they confronted you. So we separated from one. This is the impact when we give into this thing. And friends, I'm probably way ahead of my notes, but anyway, just mental pictures, right? God has given us, it's so beautiful. Jesus was taken to that high mountain, shown by the enemy all the kingdoms of the earth. And he doesn't sin, but he rises from the dead. It says he leads captives in his train, and he wins back mankind, the nations. In Psalm 2, ask of me and I'll make the nations your inheritance. And God's promised us, go into all the world and make my disciples. It's massive. And this giant just starts little bit by little bit, cutting little bits out. Oh, no, not those people because they confront me like this, and not those people because they make me feel bad about this, and not this environment because and little bit by little bit begins to cut out until eventually the inheritance of God, which looks like this. And they begin to live like Oliver Twist. Please, sir, can I have some more? Romans chapter 12, verse 3. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. When that giant hears that, he's like, no, what are you doing? Because to take an honest assessment of who I am, where I'm weak, where I need help, that oftentimes the reason I'm not feeling good is as a result of me and not everybody else. And in that moment, I realized my need of Jesus, my need of the love of God, and my need of community. That's why the greatest command is what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, because you're going to need them. The way that's worded, it sounds so altruistic. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like everybody's so spoilt and blessed. And like everyone's so blessed because I'm in their life and I can make them feel better. No, you need them as much as they need you. Probably more. I need other people. And this giant begins to separate us from others. Because in listening to this giant, we cut off our means of growing and maturing because we grow through opposition and adversity. We grow emotionally, mentally, spiritually, everyly through adversity. 1 Peter 1, verse 6 to 7. Peter writes this, "In this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus." This refiner's fire. We used to sing a song back in the day, Refiner's Fire. Did anyone remember? Refiner's Fire. Like everyone's like, oh, Refiner's Fire. And then the next day someone says something and I'm just like, Assassin's Axe. We should sing that. Assassin's Axe, don't get in my way. I cut your head off. Like, Jesus, don't work in me. Anyway, the reason much of the church, friends, I believe is immature today is because we bought into the giant of feel good and his doctrine of avoiding pain at all costs. This giant promises freedom through escape and gives us an outlet, but it leads us to captivity. I was reading up a little bit about leprosy because I'm a learner and who knows where my brain takes me sometimes. Pieces fall off, or people lose bits of themselves when they have leprosy. But it's not because those pieces necessarily rot off. It's just that your nerves are so damaged in those areas that you can't feel anything. So even though you've got a living hand, you can't feel. And so you'll be sitting there with your hand on the braai, next to the steak, leaning there having a conversation with your friend. And people are like, I didn't know we had pork. It's sort of right, huh? And then you look up. It's the absence of pain, the inability to feel pain, which destroys the individual. And friends, this giant is like spiritual leprosy. Because he doesn't want us to feel pain. And we injure ourselves. And we get ourselves in situations because we inoculate ourselves against pain and end up hurting ourselves. I don't want to hear what God may be saying because not only will it bother me, but it may not feel good. So word number 9, excessive pursuit of happiness, entertainment, or comfort. And friends, there are entire churches and parts of God's body where the entire premise of their preaching is constructed on the premise of feeling good. That's not the gospel. Jesus hasn't come to make us feel good in that sense. He's brought us into relationship with the Father. And the most incredible feeling you can feel as a human being is this. This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. This is my beloved daughter in whom I'm well pleased. There's nothing that feels like that. So how do we deal with this giant? And then we've got to land the airplane. Why does it have such a deep hold on us? Because outside of knowing the Father, feeling good is so often the coping mechanism that we lean to. It's the way we're told to cope. And not bowing to this giant is literally like taking off an oxygen mask underwater. I feel like I can't breathe all of a sudden. Because I feel like I'm not coping with my life, and so I've got these vices or these outs, these feel-good moments that make it a little bit easier. That I need the weekend to be able to cope with the week. That I need these addictive patterns in my life, or whatever I need these things that I go to help me cope with this thing. And friends, that is not God's pattern for us as His people. His design is that we live a life that we don't have to keep escaping from. His design is that we live a life where we understand that we are sent by God on mission for Him. that the feel good in it is that Jesus has promised, I will never leave you nor forsake you, that he's with us in this journey. We end up blaming, the blame thing is massive, because when it doesn't feel good, like we always blame everybody else, or we end up blaming ourselves and then we medicate. Find these patterns that we walk in. Galatians 2:20, I'll finish with this. I don't know how many times, I probably read this verse every week. It feels like it's such a life message. Paul says this, for through the law I died to the law, so that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ. It is now no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. The life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And there's two things in this text. One, it says that I'm dead to myself, but number two, it says I live for him. And both of those things deal with the blame thing. Because I'm dead, there's nothing to blame. That I can walk with Jesus. I can walk in his light. I can walk in his affirmation and what he says about me. My pleasure and my pain no longer become the driving forces in my life. My joy, my feeling good is genuinely fed by pleasing the Father. Jesus said that. They said, Jesus, I got food that you know nothing about. My food is to do the will of the one who sent me. It's so interesting. Jesus, it's in the tough spaces. It's so easy that we find Jesus. You know, the disciples are going through the storm. I don't know, they're playing Monopoly or whatever it is on the boat. And they were fighting because they were playing Monopoly. But they were still fine. And then the storm comes up. What's the first thing they do when the storm comes up? Jesus! They go looking for him on the boat. And friends, it's so often like that with us. The storm comes. What is our default response? There is no storm. We are floating. Or, Jesus. To turn to him. For me to live as Christ and to die as gain. And then the last word, freedom comes when we allow God, not our feelings, to be our guide. The meaning and purpose so many of us strive for is hidden the other side of pain and not feeling good. Whilst we live at the call of feel good, we are much like the street child sniffing the glue bottle, trying to find respite in amidst the pain. It's just a bigger and more expensive and perhaps more sophisticated glue bottle. In the good season, Jesus is my rock and my source. In the tough season, he is my rock and my source.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you're thinking about taking this further, you can follow us on our website. There you will find access to our previous sermons, our banking details, or if you just want to contact us. If you consider yourself to be part of Center Church, we'd just like to thank you for your continuous support and partnership. Have a sick day.